Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Covenant Connections. I'm here again, Ariel, with you and my two good friends, Josh and Bill. How you doing, friends?
Great. Doing
Good,
great.
good. So, as per my request today, I wanted to speak about King David. And specifically, I wanted to start with the second book of Samuel, the first chapter, in which David is informed that King Saul and his sons, including his good friend Jonathan, have died in battle against the Philistines, but specifically, they were killed by an Amalekite uh, boy, and he comes to tell this news to King David, thinking that King David has to be super happy because King Saul has been chasing him and tried to kill him for the past years. And he finds out the hard way that it's not so. That King David is extremely disappointed that this Amalekite has killed the messenger of God, as he calls it. And so he orders to kill that kid, and then he sings a song, and we'll see how it's called in English. But this specific song in Hebrew, it's called Kinat David. Kina is a special song that you sing out of extreme grief and sadness. We only use that word in these type of cases where somebody dies and somebody mourns the dead, and they compose some sort of a song. And this is one of the most famous texts in Hebrew, and because it connects tremendously with the amount of loss that we had throughout the years, but specifically since the establishment of the State of Israel, every time a soldier dies, many verses within this short, relatively short text are used in obituaries and all sorts of stuff. All right, so I'm sorry for the sad theme, but it's still very powerful to know. So, how did you call this song? It's a song of.
It's a funeral song, and Bill was right that a common English word would be a dirge. Uh, but
Dirge?
that word is even a broad brushstroke because that could just also mean a song.
How do you spell that?
Dirge, dirge.
Wow. Okay.
Not a
Great.
common word we use anymore.
No,
Mm. But still, in your Bibles, it doesn't use that word. It says a song of.
yeah.
Not any version I've seen.
Okay, great. So it's super interesting, this specific song, because each and every verse here has so many meanings, and I'm so curious to see how it was translated into English. So let's start. What does verse 17 say?
Yeah, which version are you using, Josh? I have the
I can
NIV and King James.
I can do the New Living or ESV, so you can go ahead.
Okay. All right. King James says, "And David lamented with his lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son."
Lamentation.
Lamentation would be another word that could mean that same thing.
Nice. But lamentation has only one meaning, which is a sad song about somebody dying, or
Yeah,
could it be used for
lamenting is
other?
a sad thing, but lamenting could be the way you feel, the way you speak, the way you sing, could be any of those things in a sad way.
Nice. Okay. And what does verse 18 say?
Also, he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher.
Okay. So the book of Jasher means that the word, the specific word, they could not translate, and that's why they used the Hebrew word. Gotcha. Okay. So basically, what happened is Saul, King Saul, and his both his sons, and many of the tribes of Benjamin, they both belong to the tribe of Benjamin. And the tribe of Benjamin is described both in Chronicles and in other places in the Bible as being extremely, how do you say, proficient with the use of a bow. Not only that, they were good both with their right hand and their left hand. Like they could throw stones and spears, and King Saul had a spear, and being using a bow. Those were the people in the by the Israelites, out of all the tribes, those were the ones super highly skillful with the use of a bow. Those were the archers. Those were the ones who were using the bow. And so they died. Not all of them, obviously, but they died now. And so the song starts with the fact that now we will have to teach the tribe of Judah the use of a bow, which is just understand. The song starts with understand what happened. It's not just before he turns to his personal grief about Saul and Jonathan. He tells we have a national crisis here. We just had an amazing asset destroyed, and we have to take that in mind. And only then he starts the actual song. And the book of Jasher is such a mystery. Wait a second, am I hearing myself double?
Yeah, my footnote says it has been lost.
Yes. So it's a mystery. Some interpretations say that it's something else, but the main scholars, I think, agree that it is actually a book that got lost, and we don't know where it's at. And the word Jasher is like the word straight, yashar, which means like it's not just straight in terms of line, in terms of geometrical, but also in terms of being honest, being true. So it could be translated like that, but it also has the same letters as the word shir, which means song. So there could be another book of songs which got lost somewhere. So we don't know. But from here, it only gets better. So Josh, what does yours say in verse 18? In verse 19, sorry.
In the ESV, it says, "Your glory, O Israel, is slain on your high places."
And that's it?
How the mighty have fallen.
How the mighty have fallen, yeah. So your glory, O Israel, it says. And yours, Bill?
The beauty of Israel is slain upon thy high places. How are the mighty fallen?
Wow. So yeah, so in Hebrew, it says Hatzvi Israel. So Hatzvi is indeed beauty, and actually it's the name of an animal. It's wow, I'm not sure how you call it in English. It's like an antelope, but it can be found in our desert. Let me just quickly see how do you say it in English. But the reason they call that animal deer, sorry, the reason they call deer in Hebrew, it's because of its grace and beauty. And we have songs in Hebrew in which Israel is simply called Eretz HaTzvi, land of the Tzvi, land of the beauty. But most Israelis, I don't think, would know that that's the meaning. Yeah, it's not very common. You have to search it up. So it could mean, oh, beautiful Israel, look what has happened. But it could also mean the best of Israel have just fallen. And the reason it says high place is because the actual death happened on Mount Gilboa. But it's interesting because the Philistines are a people they lived near the sea, near the plateau, right? So I'm from the city of Yavne, which is like 20 minutes south of Tel Aviv. It's a Philistine city. Ashkelon, Ashdod, Gat, where Samson used to come from. These were all Philistine cities. So they used to fight in, is it called the plateau? Is like
The plains.
The plains, right? So the fact that he used high places is to emphasize that it happened on the Gilboa, on that mountain.
Gilboa is quite a bit north of there, isn't it?
Well, yes, it was very north. It's in the northern part of Israel. It's closer to already to Syria and stuff like that, right? Rather than to Ashkelon. That specific line in Hebrew, "Atzvi Israel al bamotecha chalalech naflu giburim," which means the translation that you said, this is something that you will find in many, many funerals of Israeli soldiers. How the heroes have fallen. It's very, very common, and it reflects this. All right, so what does the next one say?
Josh, you want to read yours?
Yeah. The next one is, tell it not in Gath, publish it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised exult.
The uncircumcised. All right. Does yours say as well, are uncircumcised?
King James is almost identical. Tell it not in Gath, publish it not in the streets of Askelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. Uncircumcised, I assume, means of the covenant, or not in the covenant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, basically, this is indeed a one-to-one translation of what it says here. We can only assume that David, who wasn't yet officially the king of the entire kingdom, but he already realized that the Philistines would rejoice in their victory. And so, yeah, he was talking about it. This also ties back to the fact that there was a time when they came back from battle, both Saul and David, and the Hebrew girls said, and I'm sorry for butchering the translation. I don't know how it says in your Bible, but the literal translation means that they said King Saul killed thousands while David killed tens of thousands. And so Saul already, and that was like really at the beginning of the relationship, and that was already making Saul bitter about David. Yeah.
Very good.
Yes. All right. So what does yours say, Josh, about 21? Because this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay. You mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew or rain upon you, nor fields of offerings. For there the shield of the mighty was defiled, the shield of Saul, not anointed with oil.
What does defiled mean?
Desecrate.
Made unholy.
Yeah.
Mm. Right. And King James says similar stuff, Bill?
Yeah, it says, Ye mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew, neither let there be rain upon you, nor fields of offerings. For there the shield of the mighty is vilely cast away, the shield of Saul, as though he had not been anointed with oil. So same meaning, just a few different words or translation of it.
Right. Okay. So I would love to show you something. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but whilst I'll tell you about it, basically David curses the Gilboa mountains because Saul and Jonathan and others have died upon that mountain. He curses it, right? Let there be no dew, let there be no rain upon you, and no fields of, what is it? Fields of the nation? What did you say?
Field of offerings is what King
Field of
James.
offerings. Yeah. So because in Israel, according to the Bible, you have to have offerings when you work your field. You have to leave a certain part of it for the widows, for the orphans, all sorts of offerings that when you work your field, you have to do it. And so he curses it not to have, not to even have fields around it that you can work upon and provide offerings. So I don't think I'll be able to quickly find a picture for you, but what I wanted to show you is that the Gilboa mountain is very weird. Specifically, it's very weird. It has similar close by mountains to it, all of which are green. They have trees upon them, and according to measurements, they have around 600 millimeters of rain annually, whilst the Gilboa mountain has around 400. And it's very rocky and super dry. And so this could only be, evaluated now at the 20th or 21st century. But you see, I don't know if I can say it's cursed, but David's wish upon it has definitely come true. I don't know if he saw it and then wished it, but whatever his thoughts were, it definitely is reflected in reality.
I would say that God keeps his end of the bargain.
Absolutely. Um, and so, yeah, the how did you say that word is defamated? What was it?
He said defiled. King James says vilely cast away.
Vilely cast away. Yeah. So the Hebrew word is nigal, right? If you ask every Israeli what does nigal mean, they're gonna say disgusted. That's the that's the basic meaning. No one would give it a single thought more. How could this relate to disgusted? But it is disgusted because that's the shield of the heroes. That's what it says, the shield of the heroes.
Yeah, the shield,
Shield of Saul.
the shield, yeah, the shield of the mighty heroes was defiled.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, treated with disgust. That's what I would say the meaning you can understand it. Because just imagine he was just defeated in battle. His shield is like thrown away with disdain or no one cares about it. But that's the shield of King Saul, the king of Israel, right?
Right.
And
So
also,
is the imagery of drought or the reality of drought synonymous with extreme grief? Because I would think, at least in the United States, my whole life I've associated rain with tears or grief. So it seems like a strange plea, and if we use the word curse from David's part, to ask for there to be essentially a perpetual drought on this land as a way of, as a marker of grief. And so I'm just curious, from the standpoint of Israel, how is grief portrayed in the scope of either drought or rain?
that's a great question. I honestly have never thought about it. I don't know the connections. I can tell you that nowadays, if there's a funeral and rain starts dropping, we always say, even God is crying. Yeah, so that's like the basic association that you would do with it. Um, so I'm not sure about drought though. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't have an answer, not a definitive one for sure.
I think what I've seen is throughout history, when God sends a drought, it's to humble the people to realize that they need Him, you know? And so I don't know if that's part of it. This whole story reminds me a little bit of when Jesus cursed the fig tree and they came
Wow, I
back.
have a question for you about that. I just read Luke this past week, and I encountered that story, and I thought to myself, I have to ask you guys about the fig story. So it's so good that well, nothing happens by chance, but yeah. So can we just deviate for a second and talk about the fig story? Because I'm really curious on your take on it. But let me just tell you how I saw it and why I was startled. So David kind of, let's say that he curses the Gilboa mountain, but I can say, the guy is grieving. The guy has, lost his best friend on the world, and we'll see it at the end of the specific song how he refers to him. It's amazing. It's like one of the most famous love story in terms of friendship between two men that we Jews are familiar with. It's more than whatever we can think of. Um, and when I read the fig story, I kind of was taken back because I felt like Jesus was hungry. He came to the tree. The tree didn't have any figs, and he got pissed at that tree. No, you're not. And what did the tree do? Like the tree was so innocent. Also, the Gilboa is kind of innocent as well. The Gilboa didn't do anything but exist there as a mountain. And so I was really curious on your take of the story. Why would he curse the fig tree for simply not having fruits? Um, Especially when we think about it, that the fruits come at a specific time and age. It's not like it's the entire year you have fruits on the tree, and so um, tell me what you think.
Josh, you want to go first? I can certainly throw my 2 cents in there.
The one that I've heard, the interpretation and the meaning of that is, it goes back to the garden. I remember when I was just a kid, for the majority of like when in Bible school or Sunday school, back when we used to have that, that the forbidden fruit was an apple. And then in more recent years, there's like, well, there's no evidence of that, and that wouldn't be true to the region, or just that region where we think. And so there's some assessment that the forbidden fruit in the garden was a fig tree, and so the curse or the fallenness that took place in the garden. Many look at that moment where Jesus curses the fig tree as going all the way back to the garden. And so I'm not doing it justice on explaining it, but the damage done in the garden is being handled through the person of Jesus. That's the best way that I can articulate it.
Yeah, I think as most of the stories and things that happen in the scriptures, there are so many parallels. They happen over and over again. So I think the garden is a good representation. My personal take, one way to look at that is Jesus came to find fruit, and he found none, and because it didn't produce fruit, it didn't get its rightful reward and was destroyed. I think that's very similar to us as people when, Christ needs us to bear fruit. By their fruits you shall know them. And if in the end we have no fruit to bear, it's symbolic of how barren we are in his eyes, So I think there's a lot of interpretations to it. I'm sure Jesus was teaching a lesson more than killing a fig tree. But yeah.
But do you relate to my, I would say, immediate surprise or
Yeah.
misunderstanding of how and what? And Jesus is walking and doing so much good on earth and healing people and feeding people, and then cursing the tree for simply not having fruit was kind of dichotomy of the nature of the teachings, right?
It could seem vengeful,
Yeah.
but
And at this time, were olive trees more common than fig trees? Because in my mind, not that I'm going to tell Jesus how to live, but I think the attachment to, because I've seen the olive tree being used as a metaphor or symbolism for Israel. It would have made more sense in my head if it was an olive tree that he cursed that didn't produce anymore, because he would have been frustrated with the hard-hearted posture towards not only the prophets but also him. And so, but there's all kinds of ways that we can look at it for sure.
But what are you guys when you use this story? Like most of the time, some stories, or most of the stories, or all of the stories in the New Testament are used as examples of something of moral, if you want to show something.
Yeah.
So Bill has spoken about you should recognize them by their fruit, by the fruit that they produce, right?
Yeah.
But do you use this story as a metaphor for something when you want to teach something?
I think Bill hits it right on the head, that not only with the fig tree in this situation, but then also John 15, when Jesus talks about the vineyard and the vineyard keeper. And what I tell people all the time when I'm trying to give them a picture of really the nature and the character of God is that he has expectation of his creation, and that he is. I explained that God is an agricultural God, and that there's an expectation of return from his creation, and we see this in trees, and then also from the standpoint of humanity. And so I used to have a fig tree here at home, and the way that they are, it's kind of a fascinating tree because the leaves are protective of the fruit, and you literally have to look underneath the leaves to get to the figs. And Jesus can often, he's doing that with us, where he's looking underneath the layers of our life with the expectation of fruitfulness. And sometimes we can give, here in the States, we call it a facade, a fake covering. And I would say that the Christian church can be guilty of that, where we look good on the outside, we have a great facade, but there's no fruit of love, there's no grace and peace and kindness or joy. And so that seems to be a consistent, poignant theme with Jesus, that he has expectation of fruitfulness.
I think that's good. I mean, I think part of what confuses people in today's world when they read the Bible is, in Jesus' time, he spoke in parables that the people would understand, and they were all about sheep and fish and fields, and we don't think that way in today's world. So I think it's interesting when Jesus said, he that hath ears to hear, let him hear. You can read the same story and somebody thinks it's a story about sheep, and somebody else sees it's the story of taking care of the one, you know. And there's a lot of parallels. I think about the parable of the 10 virgins, when 5 were prepared and 5 weren't. It's kind of like when the master comes, you don't know when that will be, but when he comes, do you have the oil? Do you have the fruit? Did the fig tree have the fruit when the master came? No, and there's a lesson for all of us that we need to be prepared for when he comes. And that's a day-to-day thing. That's not a always coming next week. We're not going to know when it's next week. We have to live our life to be ready to greet him every day.
You remind me of something. I think I heard it by Tony Robbins once. But there's like this famous saying that says, you know what luck is? Luck is when your readiness or preparedness meets an opportunity. That's what people call luck, right? You're ready for this opportunity, and so it happens, and people look at you and say how lucky he was, right? But no, you were ready for this when it came and knocked on your door. And so maybe the fig tree wasn't ready for the opportunity. Like if you look at it from the fig tree point of view, what else could you ask for as a fig tree, right? The pinnacle of aspirations for a fig tree. Jesus will eat from your fruit, but you're not ready with your fruit when he comes. It's so interesting. All right. So thanks for that. I had to carry this with me until our session. So thank you for reminding me. All right. Josh, what does 22 say?
Verse 22, from the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan turned not back, and the sword of Saul returned not empty.
Word for word.
Yes.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's really straightforward, right? The meaning of this. When they fought, they were always victorious. And so this is what we got accustomed to. The bow of Jonathan would never go back without successes, and the sword of Saul did not come back empty. But it did now, in a sense, right?
Right.
All right. Josh 23.
Saul and Jonathan, beloved and lovely, in life and in death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions.
Yeah, very close. The only difference is mine says Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives. And in their death, they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions.
So you have like a comma, or what? What do you have there after their lives?
Exclamation mark.
There's a
Were lovely and pleasant in their lives, comma,
comma.
and in their death they were not divided.
So many Israelis who know the song think that it's in their life and in their death they were not divided. But the exclamation mark and the comma come at the right place because that's not accurate. It was they were loved and pleasant in their lives. Stop. In their death they did not part. That's the correct uh, translation. And we know this by the way that it was so both in the Dead Sea Scrolls and in the Bible, you have marks above and beneath the letters. That if you've ever heard people in synagogue when they sing the Bible, when they sing it, there's a way to sing it, and the way you have to sing it is written by those little markings. Unless you're a person from like who's reading this on a constant manner or a rabbi, most Israelis wouldn't know how to pronounce the word correctly according to these specific markings. But that specific markings show you how this was supposed to be read. Because as a sentence, if you don't have punctuation, you wouldn't know where to stop, whether it's in their life and death that they did not part, or were they pleasant in their lives and in their death they did not part, which is a different meaning altogether. Could you repeat the eagles and the lions part?
They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions.
Do you use this term somewhere? Like, is this common? So in our culture, it's a very famous line. I don't even know if many people know where it's from, that it comes from here, but it reflects bravery and heroism.
The only reference to eagles that comes to my mind here in the States is probably more so from the verse that's mount up with wings like eagles, which that's Isaiah. But just the soaring aspect of it, not necessarily the strength.
Gotcha. So what does verse 24 say? Bill?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ye daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with other delights, who put on ornaments of gold upon your apparel.
And yours, Josh?
You daughters of Israel, weep over Israel, or weep over Saul, who clothed you luxuriously in scarlet, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel.
Yeah, so this is the point where the obituary, I would say, splits, right? And now, instead of talking about the both of them, he starts addressing the grief for each and every one separately. And it's interesting because, as I mentioned earlier, the daughters of Israel, when Saul and David fought that war and came back, they were praising both, but they were praising David more, I would say, right? As I said, they said he killed tens of thousands while Saul killed thousands. Maybe they didn't mean it in a degrading way, but Saul definitely took it in a degrading way. And here David says, it was always Saul. It wasn't me. He was the one in charge. Because what are we talking about here? We're talking about loot, right? From a war. When a king wins war and you have loot. So Saul basically divided it and gave it all these beautiful ornaments and scarlet stuff to the daughters of Israel. And David explicitly says, it's not me, it was him. It was always him. He was the one. And mind you, this guy tried to kill King David more than once, right? And also David had the opportunity to kill him back and he didn't. He literally saw him as a messenger of God, which is above and beyond our understanding. How could you do that when a person chases you and you have to run away? And although it's his father-in-law, it's still a person who's trying to kill you. And so it's extremely beautiful how he turns to the daughters of Israel and says, it wasn't me, it was always him. It was always him. Make sure.
He acknowledges the leadership and the authority instead of taking it upon himself.
Yeah.
He could have, and the people would have been happy to do that.
Yes.
It really settles any issues I've ever had with my in-laws, so it pales in comparison.
Yeah, well, if they don't use spears against you, then you're good. All right. So, Josh, what does 25 say?
How the mighty have fallen in the midst of battle. Very straightforward.
Yeah. And it doesn't continue,
So
Jonathan?
keep thinking that it pauses, or that's the end of the verse. Jonathan lies slain in your high places.
But it's still 25,
Yes.
Jonathan. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Mine is just slightly different. It says, "How are the mighty fallen in the midst of battle? O Jonathan, thou wast slain in thine high places."
And yours didn't say how, Josh?
Mine said how the mighty have, but Bill
Oh.
said how are the mighty.
Oh.
It's interesting.
What's the difference grammatically? Isn't it like the same?
Bill's almost, it starts off as if it's going to be a question.
Yeah, mine sounds more like a question, although it has an exclamation point. Because one is like Josh said, is an exclamation. How the mighty have fallen. Mine is how are the mighty fallen?
Which expects a technical answer?
It's weird because it has an exclamation point, not a question mark. So
It would almost make more sense if it said, "Oh, how are the mighty fallen."
yeah, that would make more sense. Because I think it's meant to be a statement, more like Josh's is. It's probably his translation takes that into account.
Yeah. Well, mine doesn't have a question
Translate
mark.
his reading. I guess Josh didn't translate it.
Yeah. Well, mine doesn't have a question mark, and the question, how have the mighty have fallen? It's obviously, I would say, more than a statement rather than something looking for an answer. But it's like, at the end of the day, it comes to show I just cannot comprehend what has happened. It's like,
Right.
how the heck did this just happen?
But it's weird that it starts his specific. So, like, not only just how the mighty in general have fallen in the midst of battle. And then I've never understood this about giving verses, like breaking apart sentences. But why not put Jonathan lies slain on your high places why not make that the beginning of verse 26? I don't understand. Maybe that's petty, but because it just seems like from that point forward there's his specific thought regarding Jonathan, but it begins in halfway through 25.
Right. So my guess would be is that this is a transition verse from discussing Saul to discussing Jonathan, because 26 specifically goes back to Jonathan. So he spoke about Saul, came back to the general concept, both of them, or maybe all of the Israelites who had fallen in the battle, and then transitions back to Jonathan. And verse 26, Josh, is by far one of the most amazing verses in Hebrew. It is absolutely amazing, and it conveys extreme love and sorrow and sadness in just a few words. You want to read it?
Yeah. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant have you been to me. Your love to me was extraordinary, surpassing the love of women. That's pretty deep.
It is. Yours says the same?
So the same, it just uses some old English, like, I am distressed for thee, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant hast thou been unto me. The love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. So it's the same. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the literal meaning is exactly the same as it's written here. The problem is that when you read it as one line, it conveys both. You can definitely just feel the sorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't know if distressed, does it say distressed? Did you say distress?
Distressed.
Yeah. So distressed is I guess it's a good word. In Hebrew, it says tsar le'alecha. And you know what? I've actually never thought about it, but now that we talk about it, tsar means sorrow. Yeah, tsa'ar means sorrow, and tsar is the verb of sorrow. Like, I feel sorrow, Because I don't know if you have a verb for, you can't say I'm sorrowing, right? It doesn't make sense. Yeah?
Right.
Sorrowing.
Can you say sorrowing? Can
Say
sorrow
sorrowing.
become a verb?
Be
It's
bad.
not common.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
But in Hebrew it can. But the thing is that tsar is also narrow. It's the literal meaning of the word narrow. If you want to say something narrow, you say tsar. So even your entire world becomes very narrow. All your feelings are narrow. You can't breathe because you're
That makes sense.
everything becomes narrow, and so you feel that it's stress.
Yeah.
Tzara is trouble. Look how many words in one in Hebrew are you can put them in this thing. So you're actually in feeling the trouble. Your world is narrow. You feel sorrow. Everything in one single word. So it's like such a good word to use here. It's not I'm sad.
so distressed that it takes my breath away and I can't even breathe. I feel like I'm going to suffocate, all in one word.
All in one word, exactly. All in one word, and it's beautiful. And you said it beautifully. And also the fact that he says, "Your love was greater to me than the love of women." It's also like very unique, very special. And so,
So what's that word love? I'm gonna butcher it, but ahavava or ahava.
ahava is love. Yes, ahava. So it says in Hebrew, it says, "Niflata ahavatcha li me'ahavat nashim." Niflata means it's more wonderful. Oh,
You
wait a
froze
second.
for a
No,
second.
Yeah. So it says in Hebrew, "Niflata ahavatcha li me'ahavat nashim," which means your love to me was more wonderful than the love of women. And then it finishes with the same concept as earlier, right? How the mighty have fallen. What does it say? How the mighty heroes have fallen, and you lost the tools of war. What does it say?
Stripped of their weapons is the new living.
Yeah.
And the weapons of war perished.
And the weapons of war perish. So, yeah, it's a great, unique love story. I adore the, I don't want to say complimentary, but the preceding story to this, one of their last encounters, David and Jonathan, was when David, I think it's chapter 20 in Samuel, the first book of Samuel, I think in chapter 20. We don't have to go to it, but I'll just briefly say why I love it so much, because if you take this song alone, it's nice and emotional. But if you look at the entire relationship between David and Jonathan, then this really becomes a peak. It's like you can't take a scene from a movie and see the hero die and feel the emotional connection unless you saw the entire movie and you got connected to the hero and everything, right? So just to connect a little bit to whomever is listening, in that chapter 20 in the first book of Samuel, there's one of the last encounters of David and Jonathan, when David tells Jonathan, "What the heck did I do to your father? Why is he like chasing and wants to kill me?" And Jonathan says, "No, he doesn't want to kill you. Don't worry about it. It's not for real." And so he may be pissed and he's like aggravated sometimes, but he doesn't really want to kill you. And so David offers, he says, he's gonna have the feast now at the beginning of the month, and so it's like a 3-day feast, and so I'm not gonna show up. You see if he's looking for me. If he's not looking for me, he probably doesn't want to kill me. But if he is looking for me, he probably wants to kill me. And so Jonathan says, "No problem, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you what we're gonna do. I'll be there, and you hide in the field, and when I'll have the answer, I'll tell you it this way. I will shoot some arrows towards the direction of where you're hiding." And I remind you what we spoke about with the bow at the beginning of our session, right? And so exactly. I'll shoot some arrows, and then I'll have one of my boys go and get the arrows. If I tell the boy, "Take the arrows, they're here, and bring them to me," you're safe. And if I'll tell the boy, "The arrows are there, but you have to they're away from you," I'm like literally translating this from Hebrew to English as we speak. The challenge is real here, friends, it's real. the arrows are away from you, then you will hear me say that, and you know you have to run. And so Saul, the first day, Saul is like, "Where's David?" He doesn't say anything. The second day, he goes like, "Where's David?" And so Jonathan says he went with his family to celebrate in Bethlehem. And so Saul gets pissed, and Jonathan says, "But what did he do?" And Saul literally throws his spear at Jonathan, and he doesn't kill him. And Jonathan, and I remind you, they are experts. So probably he didn't really want to kill him, because if he would, he would have. But Jonathan also is like, okay, I'm not going to finish my meal even, and goes away. And goes to warn David, shoots those 3 arrows, and tells the boy, those arrows are away from you. And technically, that's the point where David had to run away. But Jonathan changes his mind. He tells the boy, quickly, pick up the arrows and go back to the city, bring him back. And he goes and meets David because he understands this might be the last time he sees him. And that verse where they hug and kiss each other and they're crying merely for the thought that they're not going to see each other again, when you complete that with the song that we just read, it's absolutely amazing. I'm all, chills here just by remembering those verses. So if you have time, I encourage you to read that chapter 20.
And when I hear stories like that, just to personalize this, I think one of the challenges for humanity at large is the extent that we are connected to one another, and that because there is a human bond that should exist. And I think just living in a fractured world, this kind of relationship is very challenging to live out because we're slow to trust. We've got our own wounds, all of this kind of stuff. But every time I read through the story of Jonathan and David, whichever of the two I am, I'm like, okay, so where is my David, or who is my Jonathan? And just bouncing around, I'm 47, but I've lived in 5 different states. And so just landing somewhere long enough to find that person that has that kind of bond. I always lean into that a little bit, because this is an overgeneralized statement, but we were not designed to live in isolation or live apart from one another.
Absolutely. And as guys, we all know there's a different kind of bro love, which is different than the love of women. It's just different.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, my friends, thanks again for what an awesome episode. This is amazing to me. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am.
Good stuff, Ariel.
Thank you. I shall see you all in our next episode.
All right.